Hello, I'm Skylar Sweet, Vice Chairman of the Littleton Select Board. This year, voters will elect a library trustee, park commissioner, a trustee of the trust funds, 2 library commissioners, and a selectman. You will also be voting on the approval of the proposed budget and 31 other warrant articles, 11 fewer than last year. Articles 2 through 20 are town-sponsored articles generated by the town. Articles 21 through 31 are petitioned articles submitted by organizations requesting assistance from the community. We hope to provide you with information that helps you make informed decisions on March 14th. The annual election is Tuesday, March 14th. Voting will be held at the new Public Works Garage next to the police station. Please mark your calendar and turn out for the election. With me now is Town Manager Andrew Josette and Finance Director Karen Noyes. Several of us, including department heads, will be presenting information on the 2017 budget and town recommended warrant articles.
This is our second year presenting the proposed budget and warrant articles for Channel 2 viewers, and we hope that you will find this is a useful way to learn more about the budget and the town-sponsored warrant articles. Areas of the budget that have notable changes or departments that have proposed warrant articles will be highlighted.
The proposed 2017 budget with all warrant articles is $8,730,879. The default budget is $8,666,901. The default is 1.45% more than 2016, and the proposed is less than 0.8% more than the default. Revenues are projected to see increases for 2017.
This year, town staff reduced the number of warrant articles in part by incorporating items usually on separate articles into the budget. They did this by keeping expenses very tight to make room for these particular items. If all warrant articles are passed, there will be a decrease of 34 cents on the municipal tax rate that was in 2016.
Let me put this in perspective for what the proposed budget with all warrant articles means for the Littleton property owner. The estimated effect on the taxes, as Karen said, is a negative 34 cents per thousand. If you have a property value of $150,000, your tax reduction equals $51. If your property value is worth $250,000, it's reduced by $85. And if your property value is $350,000, it's reduced by $119.
The executive office budget is $286,276. This budget includes the town's office administrator, executive secretary, health officer, moderator, select board, town manager, the ongoing town mapping project, professional services, and books and periodicals, among other items. This budget has a slight increase this year, which reflects changes in health insurance and life insurance, increases in workman's comp, and non-union wages.
The town clerk's budget remains relatively unchanged at $172,722. Included in this budget, town clerk, a full-time and part-time employee. This office handles elections, official vital record issuance, preservation and retention, and vehicle registrations. Increases are due to added election in 2016 and non-union wages.
The clerk's office began registering boats in 2016, which increased, and we expect additional increased revenues this year. This allows for the first time in renewal of boat registrations. The clerk's office is continuing to explore expanding services for Littleton residents. The tax collector's office handles the generating and maintenance of sewer bills, tax billing, collection records, tax liens, sales, and delinquency. In addition, the office functions as the town's assessing clerk and works closely with the assessing and planning zoning office to help ensure that the tax cards are accurate. The tax collector's budget is lower than last year at $70,825.
The Financial Administration Department has a full-time finance director and a part-time assistant. It handles all the town's bookkeeping, investment, debt service, and human resource activities. This year's financial administration budget in the proposed budget is down 14% to $162,226, which reflects, among other changes, a reduced auditing expense, changes in insurance, and time allotted for wages salary splits.
Assessing serves a primary role in determining the property values for parcels in town and is a critical component of establishing the town's tax rate. In 2016, a new assessing structure was initiated, and after a competitive bidding process, the town engaged with a new firm, resulting in significant annual savings and increasing quality of services. This year sees a strong decrease of $104,340, a savings of $17,497. The legal budget remains unchanged at $97,600. Continuing in 2016, the town works closely with legal counsel to ensure policies and contracts are equitable and taxpayer exposure is minimized.
Personnel administration includes expenses such as help wanted advertisements, workman's comp insurance payments, drug testing, benefit administration, unemployment insurance, inoculations, and pre-employment screenings, to name a few. Increased personnel time dedicated to the complex human resources activities are making up a bulk of the increase, with the budget this year at $122,980.
The Planning and Zoning Office has one full-time employee and a part-time zoning officer, in addition to the Planning and Zoning Board expenses. The office is experiencing increased commercial development, coordination, planning, and general inquiries. The budget remains relatively unchanged at $85,328. General government and buildings includes expenses related to the Opera House, non-venue expenses, and the town office expenses, and includes such items as electricity, sewer, heating, fuel, building maintenance, phones, and other operational expenditures. This budget remains relatively unchanged at $71,351.
The cemetery's budget of $80,500 reflects the costs associated with upkeep and ongoing maintenance of the Littleton cemeteries. The insurance budget is for the town's liability insurance and is estimated to increase by 10% for 2017. Liability insurance covers all town buildings, vehicles, equipment, and events. Advertising and regional associations covers the costs of publications, the town report, dues, and media services such as Channel 2 coverage of select board meetings and other town-related events. Under other government, general government, this includes contributions of $35,000 to the Littleton Community Center and continued for 2017. Is the reduced contribution to the Mount Washington Regional Airport of $6,000.
With us now is Littleton Chief of Police, Paul Smith. Chief, I see that your budget has various increases and decreases. Could you walk us through these?
Sure, I'll go over the increases first. First of all, we obviously, just like most of the budgets, we have increases in our health insurance. Most of that's unavoidable, so we have to absorb that into our budget. And of course, that's due to changing policies. I think the Affordable Care Act has something to do with some of those increases as well. But we also have some software changes that we've incorporated, especially for efficiency in our cruiser cameras, some server software, and also for our body cameras that we implemented last year. So there's an increase in that area. And other changes are due to some changing in personnel. We're absorbing the administrative position out of the parking budget and putting that into the police department budget. And that's a good move because it frees up a lot of funds for the select board to use to, in the parking budget for parking, to enhance parking, painting the parking spaces, so on and so forth, and they don't have to go out for taxation to get those, because it's all fee-based. We also had some retirements as well. I should say a retirement. Sergeant Cox retired. So certainly, we were able to reallocate those funds more appropriately and absorb that position into the department. And of course, there's some additional funds in there for a part-time evidence technician. And we, 2 years ago, had asked for 2 police officer positions. And of course, with the increase in the tax rate, we didn't feel that that was appropriate for it to ask for the second one. The town was very, very generous and provided us with the additional officer, which has paid off because we've made a lot of progress in the war on the epidemic on drugs that we have right now, the war on drugs. So we felt that this would be appropriate. It would allow our certified officer more time out on the street rather than the evidence room, so it's better allocating our resources.
Would that be an existing employee's job, or is that bringing somebody on new?
It might be somebody that we're familiar with that has already had a background check, but we don't have somebody currently in this position. This is a brand-new position. So we haven't determined yet who would receive these funds. And it's a finite amount of money. It certainly isn't a large sum of money. Also, we have our media server. Certainly, with all the technology that has been absorbed at the police department, with technology, we need to upgrade things with our cameras and our ability to take digital photos and audio recordings. Our current media server doesn't meet the federal standard federal security standards. So we are updating our media server to meet those standards so that we can safely and meet the federal regulations on storage of the media. You know, it's just, unfortunately, it's the times that we live in, and we need the ability to store that evidence. And that comes from our cruiser cameras and our body cameras and everything. And of course, I think the biggest increase in our budget, actually, I skipped one. We're also updating one of our radios. Our radios are end of life. They are not dual band, so we don't have the capability to speak with not only Vermont, but even the high school in our current radio system. But most importantly, they can't be repaired. So we're starting to experience a lot of problems with our radios, and we're slowly phasing them out. We're starting with our first radio this year.
Do you plan to do one radio a year?
I do.
Yeah.
I do plan to do that, one radio a year, until we've replaced all the radios. These have been great radios. They've been in our inventory, I'd say at least 15-plus years. Yeah, so they
Good service life.
great service life, great investment for the town. And then, of course, our largest addition to the budget is our patrol car, our patrol vehicle. This year, we're looking at replacing our 2009 Ford Expedition, which has served the community great. It's been our only full-time four-wheel drive vehicle that we have. It's a full-size vehicle, but unfortunately, Mother Nature has caught up to it, and we just have some real corrosion problems with the vehicle, and it's starting to experience some equipment failures.
Yeah. Now, usually that would be on the warrant, but this year we're putting it into the budget, and that's the reason why it looks
Well,
like a big
we've done
increase.
that traditionally.
Yeah.
The department, it was in the budget when the community as well as the country and the state experienced the Great Recession. It was removed from the budget, and the community was given the option of whether or not they wanted to continue with that practice via warrant article. The select board, and I asked if the select board would do this. They placed it back in the budget because it is something that we replace every year.
Right. Good.
One of the largest decreases that we saw in our budget this year was on our fuel line. We reduced our fuel line by $7,000. Now, partly because of the reduction of fuel costs, but also due to our no idling policy and a number of other factors in there. So we felt it was appropriate to reduce that line.
Chief, you have a warrant article this year for safety equipment. Could you describe the need that this warrant article addresses?
Absolutely, and just a little background on that warrant article. I believe we've had it on the warrant for several years now. The police department, as you know, we charge out when we have construction companies and firms that sometimes will need security services or flagging details or traffic control, because it's beyond the normal scope of our duties, the town of Littleton is authorized to charge them a certain rate. Those funds are used to pay the officers' salaries, cruiser maintenance, and so on and so forth. They go to a central fund. In order for us to expend those monies, the extra monies in those funds, which can only be used for certain things, we have to do it via a warrant article. There is no tax impact on this warrant article. There never has been. But these funds are allocated for cruiser-related items as well as safety-related items that go in those patrol cars. So, for example, this year we're going to be replacing, partially through a grant, we're going to be replacing one of our cruiser cameras. It's become antiquated and can't be fixed. So we'll use some of those funds for the replacement of the cameras or that camera. We'll also use it for maybe purchasing more traffic safety cones to be placed in the patrol cars for out on the road.
Well, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Joe Mercieri, Littleton's fire chief, is with us now. Chief, I see that your budget is actually down slightly from last year. Can you describe what kind of changes were made to get us
Sure,
a lower
absolutely.
place?
In the past year and a half, we had several retirements of senior staff, and bringing on new personnel, we start them at a lower wage scale, which would provide us with a budget savings in that aspect. In addition to that, senior staff had a higher level of medical insurance, a family plan, whereas majority of the people we hired are single, and they use an individual plan, which is less costly for that plan. So there's a savings there, too. We also have some savings in our fuel line, our diesel fuel line. We've subscribed to an online WEX program, which offers considerable savings for fuel, which attributes to the savings in the budget.
So you have no warrant articles this year?
Not this year, no, I do not.
Yeah,
That's great. Well, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
thank you. With us now to help explain the highway budget and Public Works budget and warrant articles is Public Works Director Joe DePalma. The proposed highway budget is $43,582 more than 2016. Could you describe the changes in store for 2017 and how the budget reflects this?
Sure. Health insurance reduction costs of $10,000 were reflected in these numbers. We have a new plan that allows for employees to make changes to their insurance and adjust according to their family situations. This year, presenting these new plans to accommodate changes in situations, we really, the end result was seeing a nice savings with our insurance. Fuel expense reduction was significant as well. We enrolled in a municipal fleet purchase program, and that's going to result in, we estimate, $15,000 in savings. The new salt shed is also an item that has reduced our bottom line with salt and winter services budget by $5,000 to $6,000. We have more capacity, 4 times as much capacity we had previously, which also can be interpreted as a safety factor increase with a cost going on the downside. Most of the budget increase can be attributed to the betterment assessment process.
So earlier in 2016, the town received an official petition for layout, which falls under the provisions of the betterment assessment request described in New Hampshire RSA 231. This process, while increasing the budget, does have offsetting revenues to cover the expenses over the next few years. 2016 has scheduled continuation of our paving plan and scheduled equipment purchases. Could you describe each of the warrant articles that are related to those items?
Sure. Article 6 is for a light-duty truck. We currently have 4 2008 model year plow trucks in our fleet, 2005 model year as well. But the 2008s are the most problematic right now. We've determined after 7 years of service, or 85 to 100,000 miles worth of 85,000 miles of use, they become inefficient, ineffective, costly, and we look to upgrade one of those trucks, one of the 2008 F550 trucks. There's a safety component with that as well. When the truck breaks down, the plow route cycle time increases as that plow comes out of service, and then our mechanic has to come off his route to service that broke down truck. So now you have 2 plow operators out of service temporarily, so the plow cycle time is dramatically increased. So in addition to it being inefficient and costly, there's a safety aspect of that as well, where we are down 2 trucks when we lose 1 for a certain amount of time. The next article is Article 8, and it's we're requesting a part-time, I skipped one.
Oh, the full-time employee.
Article 7, sorry, full-time employee. We're a vibrant community, Littleton, and lots of public work, infrastructure, drainage, sewer delivery. We have sidewalks to build, maintain, right-of-ways to keep cleared, utility easements, things like that, road surface management, parking lots, green space in the downtown area. We also have residential neighborhoods we do a lot of work in, commercial areas, industrial park. And there's a lot of work out there and not enough people to do it. We're trying to do a lot with a little, and but for us to go ahead with this, we really need another person to stay proactive in our approach, or try to become proactive in our approach instead of being reactive with regard to our infrastructure maintenance. We don't want to always be reacting to the most critical issues. We really would like to be proactive with our maintenance. Article 8 is requesting a part-time laborer, and for the reasons I just stated above, a part-time guy employee would help us out with the winter, but the summer is a short construction season for us here in the North Country. And with the amount of hours the guys accumulate or accrue or work in the wintertime, they take their vacation in the summertime, which we want them to do. They're in time off. But to keep crews at proper staffing levels and functioning efficiently, therein lies the need for this position. Keep that staffed. The Article 9 is road improvements to Mount Eustis. We want to start from the town line in Lisbon and work our way back to Industrial Park Drive or transfer station, depending on where the funds and how the scope of work evolves with through engineering. We've identified that section of road as the most problematic in that area of our town, and we'd like to start right there at the line and work our way back towards the industrial park. There's a lot of use there. It's a thoroughfare. It's an access road to the industrial park as well as to our town via the Lisbon side of Mount Eustis. Usually we ask for $500,000 in paving dollars. This year we're only asking for $150,000 because we have other projects also slated to take place. Immanusick and Saranac Street are going to be repaved, and Safe Routes to School is the first job that's going to see a shovel in the ground this year. There's a walkthrough the end of the month, and then it goes out to bid, and we look to have substantial completion before the kids go back to school. So that'll be the first job, again, that sees shovels in the ground, and there's a significant amount of paving there with those sidewalks. We're looking to complete those that one by the end of the summer, beginning of the school year.
When do you expect Saranac and Manusick streets to be completed, in Mount Eustis as well?
Yeah. We're going to put Mount Eustis out to bid later in the month. We've got some preliminary numbers, and we're going to put it out to bid later in the month, and we're going to attach a schedule that allows for best pricing with the least amount of impact to the traffic coming into Littleton, into the businesses in the industrial park. Yourself and my staff and engineers are coordinating right now on how, with a goal of completed construction by the end of this year, definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. And thanks to the crew.
Thank
You guys
you.
doing great work. This year's Park and Rec budget is pretty close to 2016, with less than a $600 increase. Do you want to explain how you did that?
Really, there's only some slight changes in summer programs, and then the addition of our phone and internet services we added. So that was the only really changes we had there.
Okay. Parks and Recreation has one warrant article this year. Can you tell us a little bit about the article and what it plans to accomplish?
Article 20 is the next phase of a project that we're into already. It is the process of replacing the green building, which is in Remick Park that we have right now. It really does more than that, though. What it does is it engages the public. It brings them together to have input on how we can change Remick Park and other facilities that we have. So Article 20 is important, that it's a big step for us moving forward.
So it sounds like this project starts with a public engagement process to define what the residents want and need at Remick Park and future uses of other park locations as well?
Yes, rather than us just tearing down the building and put something up that's obsolete in the next few years, it's going to give the input of the public on what we need and what direction we need to go. So we can look forward to the public having a big word in what they want to see our facilities turn into, whether it's Remick Park or Apthorpe Common or whatever parcels we have in the town that we can use in parks.
Yeah, Ryan and I often receive requests for recreation use of parcels. We get a lot of input, and people lately have been asking, these are some of the recent requests, dog parks, zip line parks, ropes course, hockey-size ice rink, exercise parks, children's splash parks, bike paths, family-oriented mountain biking trails. And that's just naming a few. We get so many requests for all kinds of activities, and this project is going to help bring all of those community ideas into a coordinated approach so that the parks program has a future layout of the needs of the community.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. With us now is Brian Patno, the director of our recycling center and transfer station department. The transfer station proposed budget this year is just up $3,301. Could you describe what items are impacting that increase?
Yeah, a lot of it is an increase in liability insurance, required ash testing, which we haven't done in quite a few years, which we need to do now. Another increase is our disposal and transportation costs going to the landfill. Those see an increase every year. Slight increase, but still an increase. The other thing with that is we have more material coming in, and therefore it costs more to dispose of it. Another thing is, on the other side, is we saved a little bit of money by cutting back our part-timer from 3 days to 2. And also revenues are up, in part because the prices are slowly going up. Also, we're getting more material and more recyclables. So,
Good. We have the recycling is in transfer stations one of the few departments that produces quite a bit of offsetting revenues. So can you talk about the fee adjustment from last year and how commodity prices are impacting the revenues for the 2017 budget?
yeah. Of course, everybody knows by now we increased the fees last year. Unfortunately, we had to. First time in quite a few years. It was to the point where the recycling market pretty much collapsed. It was never seen before. A lot of transfer stations and recycling centers actually stopped recycling or cut back recycling quite a bit. We went a different route. We wanted to keep recycling. And now that the markets are slowly coming back, we're going to see the benefits. This year, or last year, I should say, because we kept on doing it that way and prices slowly crept up, we actually, our revenue saw $30,000 more than expected, which was a huge deal. And hopefully even this year, it'll be going up even more.
So the transfer station has 2 warrant articles this year. Could you just tell us a little bit about what needs those are addressing?
Yeah, the first one, Article 10, $16,000, not a big amount. There's no tax impact. It's actually coming from our enterprise fund, which is part of that $30,000 extra revenue from last year. Pretty much it's an all-in-one. The big thing is we need a new open-top container. We have 2 of them. One of them is out of service, unrepairable. The other one is falling apart, so it's definitely one we need. If we don't get it, and that one goes out of service, it's going to be a rental fee, and it's going to cost quite a bit of money. Another thing we're asking for is a used garbage container. The one we're replacing is 13 years old, and it's rusting right out. A used one, I've already looked at them. We got one last year, and they're in real good shape, and for a little under half the money of a new one. So we should do pretty good on that. The other thing that warrant article includes is extra money in case equipment needs repairing, in case we need to buy more town bags and stuff like that. It won't come out of the budget, it'll come out of the warrant article.
And Article 11 is looking for a baler and conveyor.
Yep. The baler we want to replace is 16, 17 years old, the last original one after the fire. It's real rough shape. It's a safety issue. The door closes randomly on us. I've actually lost partial hearing in one ear because of the buzzer on it. And it's getting to the point where it's just, parts are hard to come by now. It's the last one I know of that's in service in New England. So a lot of the parts have to be custom made. And knock on wood, we've been pretty lucky. No major breakdowns, but it's just going to happen sooner or later.
What happens if that breaks down?
Yeah, it's going to cost a lot of money. And the nice thing is, the balers I'm looking at are a little bit larger, so it should save labor. It should save material. One of the big things I'm looking at is, compared to when we replaced the cardboard baler, is we saw an increase in weight per bale. It went up 10%, and it took about 30% less time to make that same bale. And that's a lot of savings that can go to us doing other things, helping the public, trying to come up with even more recyclables to get more money to help offset the costs, stuff like that. So,
Good. Thanks, Brian. You do a great
Thank
job
you.
up there.
Thank you.
thank you.
We've heard from police and fire. Littleton's remaining emergency services are its paramedic level EMS and dispatch. Both our EMS service and dispatch are currently outsourced and provided through contract. EMS service is provided by Calix Ambulance and is depended on by Littleton's residents and visitors in times of difficult health and emergency situations. Its cost is $193,080. 2017's budget includes $118,567 for this service.
So dispatch services are contracted through the Grafton County Dispatch under the Sheriff's Office and are a critical component in the emergency services communication, response coordination, and incident documentation. EMS, fire, and police rely on direct communication with this service. 2017's budget includes $193,080. Karen?
Bridges and sidewalks, street lighting, animal control, welfare, patriotic purposes, the Conservation Commission remain relatively unchanged in the 2017 proposed budget. Littleton's library was opened in 1906, in major part due to a Carnegie Foundation grant received in 1902. Since its founding, the library has provided reading and educational opportunities to the community. Recently, the library has evolved to meet modern information demands, including online audible books, family and children's resources, movies, computer access, and learning. This year's budget is slightly increased of $379 over 2016 allocations.
The library has a warrant article this year for $15,000, which would add funds to the library's improvement fund.
The library is working with grant specialists and will utilize these funds as future grant match for needed building improvements. There are a number of budgeted, there is a number of budgeted items that don't impact taxpayers. Skylar, could you list some of these, please?
Littleton Sewer, Opera House, parking meters, and police special detail are enterprise funds. Karen, could you briefly explain what an enterprise fund is?
Sure. An enterprise fund establishes a separate accounting and financial reporting mechanism for municipal services for which a fee is charged in exchange for goods and services. Under enterprise accounting, the monies coming in and expenses of the services are separated into separate funds with its own financial statement, rather than mingling with revenues and expenditures of all other governmental activities. In other words, these functions are self-supported by fees for those who use the service, not by taxpayers.
So this year, we've moved some of the labor expenses from the parking meter fund to the police department labor fund, as the chief mentioned earlier. This will enable additional funds created for meter fees to build into the parking fund. And these funds are going to be used for future projects to address Littleton's many parking needs.
The planning board is an official board of the town, appointed by the Board of Selectmen. Article 2 is sponsored by the planning board and supported by the select board to be put on the warrant. The article is a result of a detailed study conducted by Littleton-based Horizons Engineering on behalf of the Littleton Industrial Development Corporation. With us to help describe Article 2 is Chad Stearns. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you for having me.
What is the size of the industrial zone and what room for expansion exists in the current zone?
The overall size of the industrial zone in Littleton is a little over 400 acres. The parcel that we are looking at changing from rural to industrial is 115 acres, and accounts for less than 1.5% of Littleton's total acreage.
Okay. What is the article itself?
Article 2 is simply asking voters to change the zoning of our parcel, 102-7, the 115 acres that we own up behind the coin company and the transfer station, from rural to industrial.
Why is LIDC looking to change the zoning of this piece of land?
We want to change the zoning because we need to apply for studies, for grants for studies, for infrastructure improvements and everything else, and we can't do that without changing it to industrial.
Aren't there other places in Littleton that are available or that are already zoned industrial?
Unfortunately not. Right now, Hitchner's is the only building zoned industrial that is vacant. The Montgomery Wire building, now owned by New England Wire, is actually partially full and in the process of being fully rented. In addition, we do have 200 acres of land that is vacant, that is not built on. However, very little of that is buildable. 43 acres are in a conservation easement. 24 acres is just completely covered in ledge. 12 acres is a buffer that we actually created for neighbors of the park years and years ago. And it's for noise pollution, visibility pollution, and views, and light pollution as well. In addition, there are 7 acres owned by tenants of the park for their own personal expansion. There are 63 acres in the park that are wetlands. It's along between the Industrial Park Road and the river that it's just not buildable material. We do have 3 parcels that total 9.6 acres throughout the park, but they're oddly shaped. You know, there's one that's 150 feet wide for half a mile. You just can't build large amounts of businesses that employ large amounts of people with lots like that.
Will this increase taxes?
No, to have a zoning change, there is no tax impact. In the future, should we move forward with this and obtain grants that need a matching component to it, then we may go to the taxpayers and ask for that match, as we have in years past. In years past, we have asked for a total of just over $1 million. However, when you look at the return of that, we now receive over $600,000 in property taxes each year. So it's a great investment should we come back to the taxpayers and need that.
What work has LIDC done so far looking at this article?
To date, LIDC has partnered with the town of Littleton and the Littleton Water and Light Department to apply for a grant, and we've received a grant from the Economic Development Agency for $40,000 to study this, to see what are the wetlands impacts, which we have conducted that study, and it's proven to be worthwhile going after. We've also designed conceptual layouts, and it's provided us with enough information that we believe this is worth going after.
And lastly, Chad, what will LIDC do to accommodate the concerns about traffic views, noise pollution, light pollution?
You know, over the years, LADC has been a great neighbor. We have been very selective in the companies that we've allowed to go into the park. We make sure that they're good community partners, that they're good neighbors, and they don't drag down the character of the park. We employ what's called covenants on our land so that we don't have noisy operations during nights and weekends. We make sure that people have buffers to their properties towards that people build X amount of feet away from a road or a butters, just to make sure that there's space. And we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to have covenants in place to protect abutters and neighbors.
Well, thank you, Chad. Appreciate your stopping by.
Well, thank you for having me.
Article 3 is an infrastructure project that has no tax impact on 2017, but will have a tax impact on 2018. The project is estimated at $2 million and will be funded with a mix of taxpayer funds, sewer funds, and grant funds. This project is first to coordinate our road improvement plan with needed sewer and stormwater infrastructure improvements. By doing this, we can make critical improvements with less impact on taxpayers and sewer users. The town sewer delivery system is divided into 7 sections. We're in the process of conducting an in-depth study of the condition of one section a year. Subsection 5 was determined to be the worst section, and this project will address the needs of sub-area 5.
The project area includes across Union, Cheswick, Pine, Pleasant, and Union Streets. The project is critical to the maintaining of the viability of Littleton's wastewater collection system and is ultimately its treatment plan. This year, the town negotiated 2 collective bargaining agreements with employees of the Public Works Department, Fire Department, Transfer Station, and Police Department. Karen, would you walk us through those?
Yes. The SEA contract, which is Article 12, allows for a 2-year agreement with the Police Department full-time certified officers. We're estimating the cost of the first year which is 2017, and it starts April 1st till the end of December, of $7,281. How we came up with this is in the negotiations, we agreed in the negotiations to do a 6.16% increase for the employees. This is in their wages, and this is partly to bring them into comparison with other departments that have the same type of environment, community environment, and to try to bring them within that level so that we could retain some good staff, and also attract good staff when filling positions. In the contract, there's also a savings that we're seeing to offset some of the cost. We're seeing a savings where the union will be going up in their share of the premiums. Instead of paying 12.5% of the premium on their health insurance, they will be paying 14%, which is a 1.5% increase. This is just the first year. It will increase again the following year. We're also seeing a savings in the waiting period for disability insurance. When an employee is out because of a sickness, accident, or injury that is non-work related, instead of having a waiting period of 3 days, they'll have a waiting period of 10 days, which saves about $2,000 on the premium for that insurance. We are seeing that or have decided that a master patrol officer bonus would be reasonable to afford an employee making that qualification. And that's a once-a-year item, and we're estimating at top dollar that it would cost us about $608. The uniform costs that we agreed to, if approved by the voters, will add $100 to the uniform expense line for each certified officer. So it's going to go from $600 to $700 a year. We also added some longevity pay for those certified full-time officers that stay with the town between 5 and 10 years service, and that equaled out to $700 in the first year. So the total, once we've made all of the adjustments between the health savings and the savings on the disability insurance, the added cost for uniforms, the wage increases, the total cost for the first year, which is 9 months of the contract, is that $7,281. The second year, we're looking at a 4.07% increase in wages. Again, their insurance share is going up. It's going from 14% to 15.5%, which adds additional savings. We're also seeing in another plan we're offering over the next 2 years, a plan that used to have 0%, the employee's share, will have a share in that as well. The first year they're going to have 2.25. The second year they're going to have 4.5 in that higher deductible plan. So the second year of the contract is going to cost us $21,529. We have a few months in 2019, because the contract starts in April, that I have calculated a dollar amount for is $6,392. That is just the carryover of the 3 months. We will see a savings again in the health insurance in that 3 months, so that's why I've come up with that amount. To go on to the ASME collective bargaining agreement, which covers the fire, highway, and transfer station, we do see some savings there, and we also have negotiated an increase in their wages. The first year, we have a total cost of $5,969, and this is Article 14. The wage increase is a 2.58%. The amount of that is $15,966. The insurance savings, they have agreed in their contract to increase their share from 12.5% to 14%. They've also agreed to pay for the higher deductible premium of 2%, where, as of right now, they do not have to pay any share of that. There's a savings of health insurance the first year of $12,777. We're also dropping the buyout or reimbursement if you're insured elsewhere other than the town to $2,000. That was originally at $3,000. The fire department will have added uniform cost of $50 per year, and some of this is for wild brush fire pants. It amounts to $300 in the first year. The other departments, which is transfer and the highway department, see $50 a year increase. That's for safety-toed boots. They are costing more. We make sure that we buy a spring or summer set and then a fall and winter set of boots. So that cost is $500 in the first year. We've added fire department on-call stipend for Sunday only. This means one of our full-time firefighters will be required to be on call for 9 months, starting April 1st, $50. That amount amounts to $1,978. And that's a $50 per Sunday amount. So the total cost again for the first year, 2017, $5,969. In 2018, we're looking at a 2.5% wage increase. And then we're looking again for some additional savings in the health insurance. The agreement has been that they would go from 14% toward their premium to 16%. So that's a 2% increase in their health costs that they're paying for. We're also offering a higher deductible plan, and their share of the premium goes from 2% to 4% on that higher deductible. That's a savings of $8,781. And then we have a total cost for that second year, $12,670. We have a carryover those 3 months into 2019, which amount to $3,649. We have a couple warrant articles for the special town meeting that if the Article 12 and 14 is defeated, it authorizes the selectmen to have an additional special meeting if needed to talk about the contracts again. So I believe I described those contracts briefly as I could.
The board and the staff have negotiated a conservative agreement that will serve the town well over the next 2 years. The staff being the office staff in the town office.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Article 17 amends the amount the town is limited to for entering into lease or lease purchase amounts, increasing the limit from $20,000 to $65,000. This increase is needed to allow the town flexibility to enter into leases when needed. Combining some of the issues that we've run into are the need to combine multiple service contracts in order to save taxpayer money, an ability to respond to immediate issues as they arise. In the past, $20,000 worked well, but as a decade or so, maybe just I'm not sure how many years it was since the original article was put in, the ceiling limit has hindered our ability to function and be as responsive and cost-effective as possible.
So this article has no tax impact and may help us and the taxpayers save some money.
Yeah, that's correct.
Correct. The remaining town-sponsored articles are Article 16, Unexpended Conservation Commission Funds. There is no tax impact. This is money left over from their budget that has fallen to the fund balance, and they are requesting to pull that back out and put that into their funds for future conservation. The amount of that warrant article is $210. Article 18, Opera House Energy Reduction Improvements. This is funded partially through a grant match. The amount of it is $44,200. The savings to the taxpayers will be through the savings in heat and possibly other energy usage at the Opera House. And it's estimated that there would be a savings of $3,789. And that would be in gallons of propane used per year at the Opera House. So there would be a tax impact to that, but it would be slight.
With savings that continue year after year.
Yes. Article 19, Opera House rigging. This is a required safety improvement to the venue. And the funds that are offsetting this so that there's no tax impact is from past years' donations, revenues received by use of the Opera House. We have just about $15,000 that will will pay for this safety improvement. And this is a required safety improvement. We hope that you've found this overview to be helpful in learning more about this year's budget and town warrant articles. If you would like more information, you can call the town offices at 444-3996, and please come out and vote. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
One last point, and it bears reiterating, if we pass the budget and all warrant articles, the tax rate will decrease. That's decrease by 34 cents. Thank you.